Sorry, dude. I haven't hit go live. Oh my goodness. I'm absolutely trolling. Oh no.
Uh,
All right. Let's set up again. Sorry, you're gonna have to go through all of that again.
oh
I'm
no, no
sorry.
worries. Hopefully, it'll be a bit more
Good
focused this
thing
time,
I
so I don't
checked. Holy
ramble.
crap. Oh my goodness. All right. Here we go. For real this time.
All right, so
All right.
yeah.
Anyway, let me do the intro. This is
Oh yeah,
Ursine
yeah.
Combo Lab Audio. This is our fifth episode. We're gonna be talking about the recent discussion of CheatBox and SOCD cleaning. Things about like controller stuff that's been going on recently. And I have a cross-eyed here with me. He's pretty knowledgeable about the topic, so I'm gonna let him introduce himself and talk about today's main topic.
Yeah, so I'm cross-eyed. I actually got into fighting games semi recently in the last few years. Specifically during the pandemic. So I'm one of those Strive, rollback, PC kind of people. I don't know if anyone's come up with a derogatory name yet, but um, and so being someone who like started playing on PC, I started with a keyboard. Obviously, that's what I have. And then when it came time, I decided to buy a controller. Um, I was like, okay, well, I already know what it's like playing on a keyboard. So naturally, I think the natural option is to look at hitboxes or mix boxes and that sort of thing. And then I Googled hitbox and saw that they're like 250 bucks and decided to make my own. Maybe a bit foolishly by putting in an Arduino and like kind of programming the input registration myself.
I say that's pretty
So,
good. That you're pretty smart. Pretty good. Pretty good. How much money did
well,
you save doing that
uh,
anyways?
maybe like
120?
100 bucks, something like
100
that.
bucks? Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I bought like fancy I bought like the crown buttons, so you could probably go cheaper on buttons. And I did end up buying like a bunch and switching them out. So
What
if
was
you're
your
not like
shell? Where'd you get your shell from? Like
so I made it myself.
Ooh, nice.
To shout out the UCLA Maker Lab actually. I use laser cutters there. I designed it myself. And I kind of the way I like laid out the buttons, I know there's lots of like the Velix whatever kind of layout. So I just kind of like took a piece of graph paper and like put where my hands felt natural, and then design it around that.
Oh,
So
send a
yeah,
picture if you have a picture of your
yeah, I
controller.
could
You
just take a
could
picture right now. I have
yeah,
it in
yeah.
front of me.
Send it and I'll put it up. Just so people know what you're working with.
Yeah. Okay, let me pull that up. Let's put that in voice.
Oh, actually, you could just put it on your. You're sharing your screen anyway, so you could just put it there.
Oh yeah, just look at the picture on my photo or on my camera. So I'll just put it in voice text and I can pull it up from there. Pull up Discord. Okay, well it shows up sideways.
That's good enough. Ooh, this is nice. Let's go.
Showing up. All right. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice
it's kind
work.
of um fancy design.
It's
But of
good. It's
course
good.
the most important part is those four buttons on the left there. So kind of when I started making it, there was a couple things you need to consider. Like one thing, the side thing really is debalance because when you press a button, you're actually going to have like the metal contacts bounce up. So you're kind of getting rid of any extra inputs that would like cause. But the main thing is sort of simultaneous opposite cardinal directions, SOCD, everyone's favorite like new Twitter topic, where essentially if you're holding down um, opposite cardinal directions, that is left and right or up and down. Um, Most games are not really designed for this or weren't designed for this. And so you can see strange things happening, like being able to block both ways, being able to charge moves while holding forward, and lots of things that are very on the face, like not what the designers intended, not what should be allowed in the game. So SOCD cleaning is the method by which you kind of block this from happening. And there's a few ways you could go about doing it. The kind of classical version is left plus right equals neutral, up plus
Oh,
down
we want
equals
to pull up
neutral.
the Xbox thing right now? Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
could
yeah.
pull
Here we
that.
go.
So
While you explain it.
yeah. So right now, my controller doesn't have any SOCD cleaning on. I've turned that off for a second. And if you just look at the D-pad here display, I could probably zoom into the controller part. Or close enough. But you can see that you're holding left, you're holding right, you get both at the same time. Same thing with up and down. And this is very easy to do. Like you could obviously press all four buttons at the same time very easily, or even with two buttons. And this is a problem you don't really see with stick, where you can't do that at all, and controller, where it's kind of awkward. It's not really something you could do with like just a thought. Um, Well, obviously, that's kind of an argument people bring up in favor of hitboxes, or well, pads can do it. Why can't we? Even though, in my opinion, it's not really the same thing because it's not literally hitting. It's like, yeah, you could hit two buttons next to each other to do this. It's very easy to do. So it's a very apparent problem. And so the very simplest like SOCD cleaning is just making it so you hit left, hit right normally, but you hit both together, you get nothing. So right now, I am actually holding down both buttons, and I'm not getting anything. And this is kind of like I think what you'd say most people would say when you're presented with this sort of problem. They're like, okay, just make them cancel out. That makes sense. Same thing with up and down. If I actually turn that on, up and down do nothing. And so this is kind of the most common in games with SOCD cleaning built in. Um, this is generally what you'll see, though. There's a few exceptions with games. And you also another common thing you'll see is down plus up equals up. So up basically just overrides down because most of the time when you hit up, especially on a hitbox where you're not going to hit up accidentally, you're gonna, want the up input to come out. And so this seems okay. Well, that makes sense. And then you see stuff like the hitbox team. I think the kind of tweet that sparked this whole sort of discussion, sort of issue, where the hitbox team, I think it was posted a video of from SF5 doing the like the Rio double quarter circle forward punch,
4 frames, four
in
frame
four
super.
frames. So
Yep.
they called it like four deadly frames or something like that. Um, but I don't remember the exact trick, but the idea was that if you're holding left, right, and down at the same time, you just get down because the left and right cancel out. So you could use that as the first input and then kind of like piano your fingers across.
Yeah.
Um, and it's one of those things where I saw a funny reply to it, which is now do this on the other side because the way you do it, it's not you can't exactly replicate because you're the very last part, the fourth frame is you hit right and punch at the same time, and obviously it's a bit harder to do when you're facing left. Um, but that's a tweet that kind of sparked this whole discussion, and it kind of shows that even with this sort of neutral SOCD, you could still get what you maybe call exploits. Um, and so on. The part of the problem is the reason why you could do it in 4 frames. Well, you goes two quarter circles. Surely you need six inputs for that. Well, turns out in Street Fighter Five, you only need to hit down, forward. So you could do it in 4 frames. And I think that's a whole kind of related but separate discussion on input leniency and sort of well, what shortcuts are acceptable? Where does it go too far? But for the purpose of SLT, you say, okay, well, maybe you could do some weird things with left plus right equals neutral. Well, what if you made it so the buttons override each other? What if you say, do left, and then you do right, and the right overrides the left because that's the last one you press. So that's another common thing. Unfortunately, I don't have it set up on my stick because I didn't personally like it, and it was a bit annoying to like code in, so I just skipped it. But it's a common thing I think on the Brooks board and like hitboxes. You usually just have a switch where you could switch between um, different SOCD input types. So, anyways, left last input, as it's kind of I think commonly called. Basically, you're holding left, you hit right at the same time. Now it's just right. Then you release right, and it goes back to being left because you're holding left the whole time. And so this is, I think, shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but like the box Daigo used, which um, I believe
Gives you
was
like
Ray
the
Ban.
frame perfect charging time, right?
Yeah,
That's what it
exactly.
is.
That's kind of another one where people go, okay, this seems a bit ridiculous. Where because you're holding back, you tap left, or sorry, you tap forward, forward overrides back, and you also tap punch at the same time. You throw out your sonic boom, you release forward and punch, and you're just back to putting back. You're barely any time. Like you got a few frames where you're throwing forward, and then you're back to back. And you could throw sonic boom insanely fast, very optimize your charging. Um, so that's another thing where, well, okay, well, this, input method isn't great. And this leads to the further discussion because you're like, okay, well, now some SOCD cleaning methods are better than others in different ways. Like if you're playing a charge character, you'd probably want last input. Well, you might want, neutral for other situations. And nowadays, games are starting to be designed with this in mind. Like if I switch over to Strive is actually an interesting case. If I have it open and if I share my Strive screen, this is showing up. Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's good.
assume.
Looks good.
So so right now I'm gonna turn SOCD off on my controller. So I hold left, um, and then I hit right, and it doesn't do anything. I hold right and then I hit left and it goes back to left. So Stride actually has an interesting version if I switch screens up. If I'm holding right, then hit left, I go left. If I'm holding left and hit right, I go left. So Strive and a few others I checked, I think you needed it too. Um, don't have SOCD for controllers at least. And they just override. If it's left and right, it becomes left. If it's up and down, it becomes up. So this is one where you're probably not likely to have any tricks, but at the same time, this is kind of
Scuffed. Scuffed.
yeah, it's weird.
This is I think it's like input priorities, like whatever they're checking last or
Yeah,
first, one of those two.
yeah, it's interesting. Now if so Kai here is on my keyboard. They actually have it set up correctly. I mean, I'll switch places so it looks a little natural. They actually have it set up correctly on keyboard. So if you're holding right and then I hit left, it goes back to neutral. Same thing with down and
Oh,
up. So they have it, but they just implemented it for keyboard because they foresaw, okay, keyboard, obviously this is going to be a problem, but they didn't maybe expect hitboxes. So this is an interesting case where it behaves differently depending on controller or controller versus keyboard specifically. Um,
that's interesting that they have it for keyboard and not controller. I'm guessing
yeah,
they weren't expecting like keyboard controller.
yeah, I think it's just like an oversight. So this just kind of shows, okay, well, some things are scuffed in this game. So okay, you have to have SOCD on. So I turn my SOCD on, you go left and goes back to neutral instead of going to right. So this is normal. And this is another thing where um if I kind of clear out my input list, if you look on the left here where I have my inputs, it's easy um to miss a direction because when you're on a stick, you're going left, you're going across, and you're going right. So it's easy to hit back, down, down, forward, forward. On a hitbox, since you're essentially kind of like pianoing your fingers across, it's easy to not get an overlap. And simultaneously, it's also easy to hold multiple buttons at once. So in this case, one I think of the big advantages of neutral SOCD is that when you're holding left, down, and right all at the same time, you just get down. So in a half circle, you would hold back, all three buttons, which would give you down, and then just down, forward, forward. Oh, and that's the wrong button. Yeah. So and this is a thing where a lot of games are like, okay, for some people it's hard to hit all of these buttons, so we're not going to check all the inputs. We're just going to check you do back, you do down, you do forward, you're good. Older games tend to be more specific about it.
You think these diagonal checks were specifically designed for when games started going onto PC? Because I feel like this started only happening as games where like fighting games at least started being ported to PC, and then a PC player keyboard, right? And doing
Right.
the keyboard tap like diagonals are kind of weird. If they made it so that it was like it would prevent a lot of it would make people get good.
Right. I think, yeah, that's, I think, something that came up in the whole Twitter argument is that if these, you know, making it so you have to hit these diagonal inputs. Um, and I think it's a thing where I'm actually personally of the opinion. I'm not a game developer. I don't have any like I don't have like Daisuke in my ear telling me like all the reasons why he does things. Um, but I think it's more of a general trend towards accessibility and making these inputs easier. Like personally, I especially with something like half or quarter circles, you're naturally going to be hitting the diagonal input as a hitbox user. So I think
The
people
chat
kind of
has a question for you. Did you just
okay.
get Guilty Gear Strive, or not in the YouTube?
Oh, this is I've had it since it came out, whenever that was, like a year and a bit ago.
All right, sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted
Yeah, no.
just
So
saw it
yes,
just now.
um, so it's a sort of thing. Like if you look on the input reader at the bottom, like just kind of naturally doing these half circles, it's not that hard to get all the input. The like the kind of if you wanted to do the three deadly frames for a half, you could kind of like use one finger and slide it across, and you see that that makes it a
Ooh,
lot easier to miss
sheesh,
these
sheesh.
inputs. But at the same time, I think people also kind of overestimate how useful something like that is, because you're sliding your hands, so you're kind of going off your normal position. So something like, or you could do like, uh, uh, we're doing something like this, and then so I can do it. I can do it on the left side. It's also one thing where it's I think a bit harder to slide going left to right. Choose me like that. Uh, but like trying to do it, it's not as easy as just normally doing it. So I think a lot of these shortcuts where you're like, okay, you can only do this really on one side, or it's kind of impractical in your hand movements. I think people focus on those and say, oh, this is why hitbox is busted, because you see four deadly frames or whatever people shortcuts, when really those are kind of neat situations. And I think the biggest advantage of hitbox is like being okay, I'm walking forward, I can immediately lock. There's no time. Like you don't really have to think about it. You're holding forward, you hit back, right? Whereas on a stick, you have to move the stick over. And I think that's really something that's I mean, I'm not gonna advocate for hitboxes being bad. I used one, I would be awful on a stick. But I think it's the sort of thing where that that sort of thing is kind of like the advantage of hitboxes, and that's something you can SOCD clean out. It's probably something they maybe could design for in games, but it would be difficult to.
Like it could be like, oh, if you're holding forward and then you hold back, like there's like a 3 frame buffer where you
Ye-
actually can't hold back or something. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, you'd have to like tune it so like it wouldn't feel bad, but something like that. Um, and so I think that's where this kind of SOCD, discussion gets kind of misses the point, in my opinion. Like, if you look at the specific Street Fighter V example, well, you just say, okay, you can do this, but it's really because Street Fighter V has a lot of input leniency. I could show something I was actually messing around with earlier. If I just close, well, let me stop sharing my screen and switch over to Street Fighter 5.
I'll just
Um,
ban all keyboard users. Go ahead.
well, keyboards are funny because you can't really use keyboards. I think there was an incident with them's fighting herds where the two players in grand finals both use keyboard, and you can't plug in 2 keyboards and expect it to work normally. So they actually had to, like, gentlemen to both using controllers, and there was, like, a whole kind of,
It's
like
hilarious.
yeah, I think that's
Oh.
why you see things like Mixbox where you're like, "Well, this controller is silly, it's just a keyboard except it only has, like, 10 buttons." But really, you kinda have to make a keyboard that has like, a controller that has the keyboard feel. Um, and, oh, jeez, why are there so many pop-ups whenever you open Street Fighter 5?
All the ads, bruh. Imagine putting ads in your own game,
Right? At
bruh.
least it's for their own thing.
True, true. I paid what, $60 to just to see ads during my loading screens, bruh.
Okay, so I'll share my screen, and let me know if this is showing up okay.
For sure, for sure.
Uh Okay, well, I think I'm just gonna have to capture. Is that showing up okay? You seeing the
Yeah, yeah, looks
ads?
good, looks good.
So yeah, the thing about inputs in Street Fighter 5 is that they're super lenient. So the most egregious example of this um is DP. So a DP is 6 2 3. You hold forward, you hold down forward, right? And you get a DP. So you could do it like that. Um, but it turns out in Street Fighter, I think you just have to hold any forward, any down, any forward. So like forward, down, forward. Get to the obviously you get like some overlap there because of switching buttons. But the very interesting thing, you could do it with a three to go. Three is a forward direction, two is obviously a down direction, three is a forward direction. So you could do it while crouching, and you're never actually hitting just forward there. Now, the way Street Fighter, if you don't have any hardwired in your controller SOCD, which I'll turn off now, is that if you hold back and you hold forward, you just get forward, no matter what direction time you do it. So you're always going to be going forward. And so this is like, okay, it makes that charge stuff easy if you're holding back and going forward. You can obviously, throw out your sonic booms as fast as possible. But this also means you could hold down back, um, tap tap forward, you get down forward, release that, you get down back, hold it again, you get down forward, and that counts as a DP motion. So you could do oh, well, that's a kick.
No
From down back.
shot,
You could do that
bruh.
from down back.
That's bruh. I didn't even know that. Dude, now I know all
That's
these
like
Ryu players be DPing my jump on reaction, bruh. Like every time. That's schmony, bruh. No shot.
yeah, that's one of the things where I was testing it earlier, and I'm like, why does this is what the developer is, this is their solution. They said that you should be able to do this because that's how they handle the SOCD.
That's
So this
so
is a sort of
broken. Holy
yeah.
crap.
Then of course if you have the normal back plus forward equals neutral one, you at least have to be holding down to do this. You can't be holding down back. So I mean you could kind of like do it. But it's at least a little trickier. And same thing like it might take a while for me to go back in as Guile. But doing that same thing where
You got all the time unless
you're
you're
holding back.
in a
That's
rush.
true.
Wow, I can't believe that. That's the first time I've seen that, and I'm like, whew. I'd be anti-airing stuff all day. Nobody could jump on me if I could just do that. That's freaking busted. Sheesh.
And yeah, it's one of the things where you hopefully the audio isn't coming too loud for you.
It's not coming through, so it doesn't matter. At least I can't hear it.
Where you're like, okay, this is a game where you'd want to say, okay, you need to have your own SOCD. You don't want to be able to do that. Same thing, you're like, okay, you're holding back.
Ooh, look at those frame perfect booms.
Yeah, if I knew the timing better, if I would like Daigo or whatever. But you could just you just throw out Sonic moves all day. And you can see like immediately there's no neutral input in between. Well, actually I don't know if Street Fighter 5 doesn't show neutral inputs, I think, on the input reader. But yeah, it's one of those things. Obviously same thing with the flash kick. So you're holding down, you automatically hit jump. Um but yeah, it's these sort of things where I think it's clear that there should be some sort of community decision on SOCD just because different games are going to handle it differently. And I think there needs to be a decision whether you say, okay, for any game that has built-in SOCD, we'll just follow what the developer intended. If they want it to be forward and back equals neutral, sure. If they want it to be forward and back equals forward, if they want it to be, last input, well, okay,
But how would
they're
okay? I
different.
have a question for you.
Yeah,
How would like the tournament organizers check what SOD CD you're even
right.
using, right? Like,
That's the other thing, and I think that's another thing people are kind of missing in this discussion, like, on mine, and I think on standard hitboxes. I think on standard hitbox, there's just, like, a switch, or maybe that might be the snack box, but it's very easy to switch, like, here I have the game's SOCD on, now I have my own, and so it's one of those things where you're like, okay, you have the layer of, "Okay, we're gonna regulate what people do," and then another layer of, "Okay, how are we gonna check it?" And I think it's one of those things where if you're like sitting there in 2012 and Evo goes, no hitboxes, we're not allowing those. People go, oh, okay. Like two people ever use a hitbox. But now it's 2022, like, and you're seeing like, I think in the Street Fighter 5, like, I think I don't know if it was all the Japanese players, but I mean, definitely at least a couple of were on hitbox or leverless. And so you can't say, "Well, you just won Evo, but next year you just have to go back to stick," right? At this point, the cat's out of the bag, so it's not like, okay, you can't ban hitbox, and you can't really even regulate it that well. So I think it's one of those things where you have to say, at this point, I think to a certain degree, is cat's out of the bag. And yeah, like I
would you
mean,
say like they'd have to like every game would have to come out with like some forced SOCD or something?
right.
Like,
So you'd have to. The problem with that is if you have your controller SSCD, it overrides whatever the game does.
true,
So there's
true.
another layer of it of where like, okay, well, you just let the developers do, but what's stopping someone from doing that? Or you say, okay, everyone just does neutral SOCD, but then there's still a problem with that. One interesting solution I saw is kind of like the opposite of last input. It's first input. So if you're holding left, you tapped right, you still get left. It doesn't recognize the right button at all. And I think that's actually an interesting one because that I think replicates stick most closely. And I think it's one of the things where it's like, okay, everyone, please get your hitboxes and make them slightly worse. No one's going to want to do that. And I think Hitbox and Brook don't even have options for that. But I think that'd be if there was like in an ideal world where you could take everyone's hitboxes and make them do that. End of story. I think that'd be a good solution.
Would this
Because
first input only work like it's only for like left right kind of thing, right? It's not like left down left, right?
right. So yeah, that it wouldn't affect like down back, down forward, down, that sort of thing. It'd really only be those cardinal directions because obviously a stick can just do that. Like, you could say, okay, well the stick can obviously hit down and back at the same time. And which is why you can only have four buttons. You couldn't um one thing I want to do as a joke is have a controller where the movement input is like a literal numpad.
Oh,
But
with
that
eight
wouldn't
buttons.
yeah, that wouldn't actually be legal because you can't have a button that does two things. You couldn't have your three button do down and forward. Um,
Why would that be illegal though?
because
It would just function as like a stick, like,
see, I think the way
right?
well, I'm no expert on this, but I think the way sticks technically work is that they have two switches. So if you're holding forward, you hit the forward switch. If you're holding down, you hit the down switch. If you're holding down and forward, you're not hitting a.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there's different types, so I may be like wrong on some of that, but it's like sticks aren't like actually like analog inputs like a controller. And I think in that case, you'd be like, okay, we obviously, they're gonna word it so that pads and sticks aren't affected. Um, Let me see. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else. I
Oh, I
specifically
saw a
want
peek of your
to.
Steam library. I'm gonna judge you now. Gonna judge you.
Well, this is my other computer only has fighting games downloaded because that's the one I used to bring to the actual physical meetup. So it was just like a bunch of fighting games, and then I had like Vampire Survivors downloaded for when I was like bored. So that one's really optimized, but um yeah. So I think it's the sort of the thing where at this point where it is, you're kind of at a stable.
No, I think I'm down just to straight up ban all keyboard like from tournaments, bro. Okay, I feel like we're getting to the issue where like, it's like PC games. You don't know what computer your user is gonna play the game on, right? So you
Right,
have to now you have all these complications where if they're running the most dog water graphics card, can the game still run,
right,
right? Or some CPU
right,
that's like not optimized, and then you have all these problems versus like on a console, you know what everyone's going to be using. It's the same console for everybody, so you don't have to plan for those things. But nowadays,
right.
like now I guess future tournaments in the future are going to be have to be planning, oh, what if this guy has a hitbox with like their own custom SOCD or something like that. It's going to be like, oh.
Right, and that's where we're kind of at, and I think that so far, I think it's just been like, let it ride. As long as you don't have a button that does 2 inputs in game,
Have you
you're
seen that
good.
Potemkin controller? What do you
Yes,
think?
that Potemkin controller is funny because it's tournament legal, but the guy has macros for Kara back Mega Fist, Kara Potemkin Buster, and it's completely legal because all you have to do is slide your fingers and it does the input for you. You're not really thinking. So you see
It's
that and you're
basically
like,
the same as a macro, though. If you
right,
like
right,
technically, right? Because like a macro just executes the inputs, right? But if you have like a row that just does Kara Potemkin Buster and you slide your hand across it and get Kara Potemkin Buster perfectly every time, isn't that the same as just pressing a button and it perfectly executing a Kara
right.
Potemkin Buster? Like I don't know.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things where it's okay. It's funny when it's just like some random like guy, like But imagine if someone rolled up to like top eight with that, then suddenly some of these people be like time out, hold up. And I think it's something you kind of have to think about. I think people kind of have to think about now because you're like, okay, well, we're not banning hitboxes. Everyone's using hitboxes. Well, what about the cross up? I think Leffen used the cross up in Strive top eight this year at Evo.
Oh,
And
did
that one, you're
he?
like, yeah.
Oh crap! I didn't know that.
And that, well, you're like, okay, well, it doesn't have any buttons that do multiple inputs. It has multiple buttons that do the same input, so that's fine. And I think the cross up people like it in Tekken. I'm not a Tekken player, so I couldn't say, but I think that the people like it for doing like their like just frames and Korean backdashes and so on. Um,
Yeah,
so it's
we
like,
might be living in an
well,
age where it's adapt or die, Yes.
right,
Get with the times, you boomer stickhead. This is the
right,
new age.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's the sort of thing where you're going to continue. This discussion is going to come up again and again. You know, There was, like, someone I think posted in the UCLA Discord somewhere, like, the antagonist button where you add it to your stick, and when you press it, it flips your, stick input. So if you're holding left on the stick, you hit it, now you're pressing right.
Oh, it
So it's kind of a
reverses
way
your
to
inputs.
yeah, it's kind of a way to emulate the sort of, instant sonic boom charging stuff.
Oh,
And you're like,
interesting.
"Okay,
Yeah.
well, that is that legal?" And I think it's a
I
sort of
mean,
thing where
well, let's just say it's not legal. I
right,
mean, people
exactly,
out
you're
here
like
putting macros like 20 button sticks, bruh. Like,
right, well, you're like, "Okay, well, now you're having 2 inputs for 1 output, so that seems fine by the rules." But also that the smell test, you're like, "Okay, that seems a little sus." And I think this is thing. Like people have to sit down now and figure out, are they going to do anything?
Yeah. So
But there's
what's
also,
the you think like what's the next big tournament that you might like? You think that we'll actually discuss this as a thing? You think it'll be next year or will it be
um,
like right now? Like
I think maybe, I mean, it depends because if like Evo changes the rules, I feel like that's like, okay, everyone that trickles down, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, the thing is, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever gonna get resolved.
Do you
I
go to
think
locals or anything? Do you have any?
uh, I haven't really. I would like to, but it turns out all the locals in SoCal are not in bus distance from me, and I don't have a car, so I'm
You're
not
good.
gonna
You're good.
spend like three
I
hours
same, bro.
driving to
Same here.
Irvine,
Cars. Yeah, we need to do something about cars. That's a whole nother topic, but
right? I'm like, there's like two tournaments or like two locals in or like whatever in the city of LA. How is that possible? Like, I don't want to go to like fucking Burbank or Irvine, you know?
yeah, yeah, for
There's like
sure.
5 million people here. Can't we find something closer?
Nah, fighting games are dead. We should just cut the discussion now. There's nothing to discuss. No people playing fighting games.
Killed by the cheat box. Killed by people
True. Killed by the cheap.
throwing
Like,
out.
think about it. Okay, think about it. If you want to get the competitive edge, you're gonna have to. You're gonna up your game. You're gonna build these custom controllers, man. Like, I don't know.
Right, and I think it's a sort of thing where I swear I've said that phrase so many times.
Nah, it's good. It's good.
um,
Just keep. We got someone else kind of come in later at 5:30.
oh,
So,
sounds good. Okay, we could solve it. Do they want to talk about stuff? The same sort of stuff.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up.
But yeah, sounds. I mean, sounds good. I could talk for 15 more minutes. Um, but yeah, I think it's a sort of thing where I don't know if it's really going to be addressed, and I think we maybe in 5 years we'll all be using like the Giga Hitbox is like a layout like one of those like flight
I'm gonna have a
simulator.
hitbox for Uni. I'm gonna have a hitbox for Guilty Gear Strive. One for Street Fighter. You know, just all the different macros. I'm gonna have a hitbox for every character I play. You know, Carl
Yeah, just
Potemkin Buster here. You know, like some chip mix up that I could just perfectly time on their get up. Just scroll my hand across.
right.
You
Yeah,
know.
getting out here with like the pipe organ. I'm like, I want a pipe organ as a controller. But it's like the fucking like toccata and D minor on their ass.
Nah, I'm about to make a neural link, bruh. Just neural link that I think about a DP happens, you know. And
Oh,
no
have
one.
you?
You know,
The problem is I'm always thinking about DP, so
oh, true. Wake
that would
up,
mess up my
DP.
game.
Oh no, dude. Neural link might be actually horrible.
But
Yes.
someone made a Connect, like they did a thing where they have like a Connect, for Potemkin, I think it was. You can maybe find a clip on Twitter and share it.
Oh,
Um,
what? They do the hand motion and then like.
yeah, they do like the slap, and he gets his like 6H or
Oh
whatever it
no.
is. And it's like that's the opposite. Imagine walking up, someone physically grabs you, you get Potemkin busted in game, you pull out your controller,
Might as well
leave.
just do MMA at that point, bro. You
Right?
know, why play the fighting game?
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, my kind of overall thoughts are, I think a lot of it is overhyped. A lot of the tricks you could do with SOCD type stuff are kind of minor.
Yeah, your
But on the other
average
hand,
Joe is like trash, so it doesn't even
right.
matter.
And even yeah, if someone spends like 10 hours in training mode and they could do the 4 frame read super like on out of
What do you mean,
full-
bro? I need to do that, you know, reversal super off block, bro, or something, man, without using the buffer.
Mhm.
I don't freaking know,
Destroying
bro.
his Hadokens everywhere, no regard for anyone. And you're like, okay, well maybe those aren't so significant, but the hitbox does kind of have advantages that you are very hard to deny. And
Yeah,
I
like
think
that walk block thing that you were talking about.
exactly.
That's like very prevalent.
I think there's a lot of things where you could say, okay, obviously these controllers are different. Some are going to be better things, and hitboxes are pretty good. Um, but at the same time, there's so much like like the average person isn't going to switch to hitbox and instantly become better. the average person isn't gonna switch from, like, pad or stick to hitbox and get better, not without a lot of time. And obviously, people have a lot of time to invest, and I'm sure you're gonna see, like, high profile players, continuing to switch over. But I think you're also gonna see a lot of high level players, like, to go back to the Street Fighter 5 example, like, despite all the hitbox player, you still see, like, IDOM on pads, and I think people are kind of back and forth on whether pads are better than, sticks, and I think, it depends on the game. Like, obviously, like, I think NRS had all controllers in the top 8. Um, well, KOF had, like, mostly sticks and maybe hitboxes. So I think it's a sort of thing where, yeah, for the majority of people, it's not gonna make a difference. It's more of a preference. Not to mention the ergonomics. Some people are gonna feel better with a stick. Some people are like, well, yeah, if I don't use a hitbox, my hands are gonna fall off, and so on. So I think it's like you kind of have to have some limit. We don't want people like sliding their finger, car pop busting everywhere, all over the place. Can't stop them.
Yeah,
But
they should
on the
only
other,
allow it for Potemkin. I think that would be base.
they should make it legal, but you have to use a pizza box like that guy. No fancy things. You have to have like a controller that looks like it would fall apart if someone like splashed a glass of water on it.
Oh man. Here. I was thinking about this, right? And I was like, what if you made it so that the 4 cardinal directions must be like repressed in order to get them? So for example, right, if I was holding back and then I pressed down, I would get down back, right? But
Right.
in order to actually go back again, I'd have to release like my hand and then press back another time. So it's not like me holding back, pressing down, and then
Right.
going down and then going back again. I'd actually have to. I'd hold back. I crouch block. I'd press down, get crouch block. But in order to actually start moving back again, I'd have to let go of back and then press it again.
Right. I mean, I
Right?
think I think for stuff like down back, I think that might be tricky because if you're mad, that would make even doing quarter circles pretty difficult because you'd have to release and repress. But I think for something like
Yeah,
opposite
but then
directions,
it's already like the short like what do you leniency? It's already you only have to press down and forward or down and back,
right?
right?
Well, it depends on the
So
game,
oh well, for the newer games at least, right?
right?
So like I think that like if you just have to repress back, forward, up and down like the 4 cardinal there, like you always have to repress them, like in order to get them. Well, you can't just hold them down and then let go of other buttons and suddenly get the input again, right? I think
Right. I
that
think
would be like the closest like one to one comparison between like a stick and a controller, right? Because the pressing and repressing is about I don't know. Would you say that's like the same time as like move it going from? Actually, I'm not sure.
I'd
Maybe.
say it's maybe about the same time, but I think the mental you'd have to think about it more because when you're going from down to forward, you're just moving the stick, right? And it happens to go through down forward.
Yeah, true.
Whereas with controllers, you have to think about holding down forward, holding forward. And when you're going down forward, you're naturally going to get that middle input unless you're doing it like
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
very, very fast.
That should be.
So I think something like that for the opposite, like cardinal directions, I think does make sense, and I think that's also similar to the solution people were saying in terms of first input
Yeah,
priority.
yeah.
So where you're holding back, you can't just hit forward. You're just going to be still be holding back, and so to do that, you'd have to like hit back, hit forward, and then hit back again. But the thing is, even doing that, you could still go back because you're just releasing your hand. So I think that's where like people have to accept that hitboxes are going to be a little bit better at these sort of things. But at the same time, maybe that's okay. No one's you can't get everyone to give up their hitboxes. Not when like hitboxes even sponsoring the events and so on.
True,
Like
true.
I think people have to accept that. Okay, some people are going to use hitbox, and I think it doesn't really matter unless everyone is optimized. Like, in the year 20XX, everyone plays Rio so they could do their 4 deadly things or whatever.
uh, what was that tweet that spurred this up? It was like the cheating thing, like the copy pasta. Like, oh, I can't believe I
Yeah.
supported this hitbox. I used to support it, but now it's
Yeah.
cheating. I'm like, bruh. That's so funny.
Yeah, like, it's okay. I think that guy has, like a bunch of like third strike cabinets, and he's like 45. I'm like, okay, he's allowed to have that opinion, you know. I'd be more worried for him if he didn't.
So I'm thinking about like, so would you have to be like standardize a hitbox? Would there need? Does the hitbox need to be standardized? Can you
Um,
like for example, if you're gonna bring a button controller to a tournament, must it? Are we gonna make it so that you can't have like Kara Pot Buster with like a hitbox with like 20 buttons? It must have like the 4 buttons and then the 8 buttons and like nothing else. Do you think that would be like a good decision moving forward for these if
um,
tournaments did something
I
like this?
think honestly, one thing I think that wouldn't be that difficult to input that kind of cuts all of that off is say you can't have multiple buttons for the same input unless you're using a pad because pads you can't obviously take off the analog stick. Which would ban the cross up and maybe people don't want to do that. But I think something like that where you say, okay, you can have one left button, you can have one down button, you can have one right button. You can't have 50 like right off your screen so you can like see into the matrix or whatever. I think something like that is reasonable. And that's the sort of thing where you're like, okay, you could count the number of buttons. I have, 13 buttons or 12 buttons on my hitbox.
It would basically
Fine.
be 12 buttons, right? Well,
Right.
excluding like start, select, and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
And I think that's a pretty good solution just to kind of prevent any further ridiculousness.
What about that thing like you have an Arduino where you like press a button and it switches SOCD, SOC, yeah, yeah. Like I'm sure
Right,
like
that's
some person can clown on, you know what I'm saying? Like
right.
pre-program something where it like does something weird. Like how would they check for something like that, right? Like cuz if you
Right.
brought your controller to what UCLA FGC the room and then you start doing something I wouldn't know, bro. I'd be like, dang, you're God. And like, I'd just be like, this
Right.
guy's crazy, right? I wouldn't be like, oh, he modded his Arduino program to do XYZ. It's like I'm not gonna be thinking about that.
Right, I think that's the other hand is that it's incredibly easy to say, okay, no buttons that do multiple things, no that sort of thing. Okay, they're relating to number of buttons. But when you get to SOCD, it's harder because you're not necessarily going to be like, oh, that guy took an extra frame to go back to back. He has the right SOCD, right? There's a sort of thing where, like, I don't know how they would really do it now for even for like a macro or something. Like, I don't know, be like, "Hey, Tio, he beat me and he did his lots of
Yeah.
sonic booms, check his controller," and then, like, tackle you and, like, pat you down or whatever. But, yeah, I think that's one thing they have to consider because I don't think the solution is and obviously, maybe I'm a little biased here, but I don't think the solution is being like, you have to have,
A
you know,
specific software or like hardware
the
bought from certain place or
right.
something like that, right?
Oh, the official
Yeah.
hitbox. You must have the official hitbox or snackbox. By the way, this tournament is sponsored by Hitbox and Snapbox. Like I don't think that's a solution. Um, and I think part of it is like depends on how much you care because okay, you have like 2,000 people entering Guilty Gear Strive. You're not going to be able to check everyone's controller, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, someone who's going to top eight probably isn't going to get there just because they can like do a Tiger Knee DP right input very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the hitbox isn't going to make you great at the game if if you just like suck on neutral. Like no
No,
amount
what do
of
you mean, bruh?
SOCD
Hitbox gonna take
cleaning.
me to top one, bruh. I'm gonna clap everybody and
Right.
then just absolutely. I'll get the hitbox ban, bro. That's how much I hate it. I'll get so good. I'll be like, yeah, it's all hitbox, not me. And then all the Twitter heads will rage. They'll be like, oh, look at this guy. It's proof. Hitbox is a cheating software, right? Or cheating method. And then
Right.
I'll be like, haha, I've done it. My grand master plan of getting it banned has
Yeah,
succeeded.
I like the people who are like, yeah, I use hitbox, but I think it should be banned. I miss stick. And I'm like, okay, well, at least they're honest or whatever. And I think it's the sort of thing for whenever this discourse happens, if you use hitbox and you get mad about people calling it a cheat box, you're like, come on, man, you won. The hitboxes are legal. You won. You don't have to get mad about this, right?
Oh, we got a comment
What do
here.
you mean?
People complained about SOCD not existing on Hitbox, so then the hardware manufacturers have to add it. They now they complain about hardware SOCD.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no simple solution to any of this. Like, kind of to expand on this. So basically, if you don't have SOCD on your box, then certain games are going to be messed up. But if you do have it, and then it's overriding what the developer intended, well, some people don't like that.
Gosh.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's no great solution here.
Oh, Cleanest Leasing are back at it. It's I like that
But
username.
yeah, yeah. But I basically I think I agree with that comment. Is that it's right? Like there's only so much you could do.
Hmm. They, you know what? I'm just gonna just remove diagonals. Remove diagonals. Remove just to make it so you can only move back and forward. I don't know.
Yeah, everyone plays footsies.
Yeah, footsies exactly. That's the only fighting game people should be playing. Footsies.
You can't get any better at confirming. From that, me stop sharing, so my Steam library isn't exposed.
Yeah, I saw that Super Auto Pets. How dare you? All right,
Hello?
Big Monkey. Welcome.
Hi.
You ready to throw your hat in? What do you think about SOCD controllers?
Yeah.
Now, Tekken player. You Tekken player?
Dude, I said I joined the conversation, but I'm also a keyboard player, so I don't really like have the most like comprehensive opinion. But
Uh,
SOCDs, like when I'm at least practicing Urian in Third Strike on Fightcade, it's been kind of apparent that it's really helpful because it's like on keyboard, I think if you hold back and then you press forward, it registers as a neutral input.
Yeah, that's
But
how Fightcade does it. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and it's like really easy to do charge moves.
what do you
But I
mean?
don't know about it
What
in
makes
any
it
other
easier? What
context.
makes it easier with the
Because
SOCD?
you don't have to like let go of back, I guess.
Yeah, but then you aren't pressing forward. How do you get the charge move to come out?
You just, I mean, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's easier timing because once you buffer the next charge, like you don't have to like switch your stick or anything, right? It's just your other finger pressing down. I don't know if that like correlates or not, but it just seems a lot easier on keyboard.
Yeah, I mean that's how essentially. I mean, keyboards and controllers are the same, except for keyboards don't have built-in SOCD, so they have to rely on whatever developer does. In this case, I think Fightcade just literally has an option that's like, yeah, turn SOCD on. I was trying. I think yeah, I tried Third Strike, and I think Third Strike had it does it the same way Street Fighter 5 does, where you just get forward. But I don't know if that was also Fightcade interfering with it somehow.
Let me actually go on and check right now.
Yeah, because I have a bunch of these. So some of the interesting ones, Uni and Strive have left override no matter whether you're player one or player two, or whether you're on the left side or the right side. You'll always get left when you're holding left and right. Street Fighter 5 is kind of unique that you're always getting forward. Type Lumina, Tekken 7. I didn't test Tekken 7 myself, but according to Google, it's also neutral for them. Um so I had a weird thing. I tried multi blood, whatever, at AACC. I don't remember where current accent code core plus.
Actress again, current
Yeah,
code, not
there we
convoluted
go.
at all.
It's like you're gonna have multiple editions that have like AACC.
Right?
Um, but that one, it always came up as down left. When I wasn't holding down, I was just holding left and right. And I don't know if that's like to do with like the community edition somehow messing with it. But that one I thought was interesting. That one's definitely one where they don't have that built in. Other than that, most modern games and games like Plus R that have gotten like modern ports generally do the neutral, with the
Yeah.
exception of Street Fighter V. And I think maybe that's a normal thing. Maybe that's how everyone should do it. I think there should be a decision though, because I think being able to pick and choose, where it goes from like, okay, these are kind of unavoidable. So now you're like, okay, now you're trying to get the advantage out of it, and I think that is a little sus. But
Yeah, checking on Fightcade right now. It's actually, if you hold back and then you press forward while you're holding back, it registers as a forward input, but not for charge moves. Like if
yeah,
you're still
that.
holding back and you're pressing forward plus your input, and it just doesn't work.
Oh yeah, so yeah, some of them are. I tried actually. KOF 98 is actually nice in that its input viewer will show you left and right, because a lot of them will only show you one, no matter what they're like, how they actually resolve it. But it actually will show left and right at the same time on the input viewer, which I wish kind of some of the other games had, just so you could see how they do it, or like make it more obvious.
You know, I just came up with the worst idea ever.
DDR pad.
Nah, you might not like this because you know if you translate it to other things, it's kind of garbaggio. But what if we made it so that every controller performs at the worst state it can perform in, right? So everyone is playing with the suboptimal controls, like equally suboptimal controls, right? You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
you
but-
find like the worst point a controller can perform, and you make every controller perform at the worst state, right? Because think about it like this: controllers can be better than other controllers, right? But if you just normalize everything to the worst possible controller state, then it's truly fair. You no amount of money or modding can get you above the worst point because it's being forced.
Yeah, everyone rolling up with like the SNES controller, or like finally.
Bro.
Think about it. It's like, you know, if you have a trash character in a fighting game, right? Just make everyone else trash too. That's like the perfect method of balancing, right? Am I right though? Just do the same thing for controllers. Don't push people up, pull everyone down.
Third strike balance update, remove Chun-Li 50% of move kit. If you press heavy punch, she'll just taunt.
Yeah, she loses meter now. Chun-Li now has 2 super arts.
Oh, you have to spend meter to do crouching medium kick and standing heavy punch.
No, think about it though. Like if every
EX
controller,
normals.
you know that it just make it so that every input has to be like 2 frames apart, right?
Yeah,
So there's no like 1 frame from down to right. It has to be 2 frames, or it has to be 3 frames.
Street Fighter 1, I'm pretty sure, has insanely like tough inputs. Like it's like just frame for like the down forward, and the forward. Like you have to hit it like perfectly. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's just frame or not, but it's like you have to be insanely precise.
Oh, it'd be
That's
like,
like
oh, you have to press
for
down.
Shoryukens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You have
I
to
heard
press
about that.
down on frame 1 and then right on like frame 8 specifically. And then down forward on frame 12.
Bruh.
What if it was like that? I don't know, dude. Maybe it is like that. I'm just saying, you know.
Oh, there's an indie game. I think it's called Motion Sickness, where all of the inputs are just like insane, like pretzel motions and like charge moves plus motion inputs. Like I think you have to do like a half circle to like reset like half circle, press the start button to like reset the training stage. And
That's
stuff like
base.
that.
That's base.
Let me see if I could find.
Dude, I should make it so that in order to walk forward, you have to do half circle forward every time, or else you can't walk forward.
Yeah, like you have to like Korean back dash or whatever.
Yeah, or some stupid like you have to DP to like do a dash.
You have to Raging Storm in order to fucking throw. That'd be so ass.
It'd be amazing. It's call it the worst fighting game. I bet it'd be meme to tournament.
Deadly Rave to do crouching light kick.
Yeah, but what do you guys think about my worst controller method? Yeah, it sounds pretty good, right?
How about this? You swap the controllers. So you roll up, you hand your opponent your controller, you get their controller. So it's a race to the bottom. Everyone's showing up with like DDR pads and shit just to like mess with their opponent.
What about that one guy who played with the steering wheel?
See, that was
Yeah.
disappointing. Because apparently he played with the D-pad that was on the steering wheel. So he wasn't actually going vroom vroom, turning left and right. I'm
Bro.
pretty sure it wasn't actually like, yeah.
Dude, think about it. If you turn the steering wheel left, that's quarter circle forward, bruh. Like if you put like a line, like a marker at the bottom, right, of the steering wheel, and you turn
Right.
left, boom, that's like frame perfect quarter circle forward.
Yeah.
It's
Turning power
free.
steering off, doing 720s.
Yeah. Holy crap, genius.
The guy could like only play like Zangief because he can only do 360s.
Oh my goodness.
Swerving all over the place trying to do DPs. It's like that
Back to,
car
like,
fighting
if-
game, wasn't that a thing?
The what?
There was a car fighting game where the cars got on their side and like punched each other with their tires. I'm pretty sure, or it might have been like a game where that was like a hidden mode or something like that, and it was like a normal racing game.
Oh, you mean buck up
Oh,
and
wait,
drive, bruh?
This guy,
That's the-
Yeah.
this guy brought it to locals once.
Buck up and drive, dude. It's a great game, bro. I'm cracked at it. There's an infinite. If you're on the right corner and you do a drift Taidoken, you can put them in an infinite.
Oh, not
Yeah.
like the car thing.
That was the most scuffed thing ever, bro.
It's a good game. I highly recommend everyone. Those at home, check it out. It's called Buck Up and Drive. It's the guy developer's a memer. It's just a bunch of memes. It's like a initial D game, meme game. Pretty good though. It's pretty fun. Pretty fun. I'd highly recommend people check it out. It's only like $5.
Okay, I'm downloading the motion sickness game. I want to see.
Okay, well, back to what we were talking about with the inputs thing. I think for plus R, you actually get to like, you actually get like the true neutral thing. So
Yeah.
since they have like the proximity normal or not the proximity normal, the proximity throw,
Right.
you can't do it while you're running. But if you like hold forward and then you like tap back and then press your throw, you'll get it. Like,
Oh,
all the
that's
time.
smart, right? Because you're like canceling out.
Yeah.
That's
And it
a-
doesn't give you like that the faultless defense meter penalty that you have from canceling your dash with
Oh,
FD.
wild! I did not know that.
Yeah.
Add that to my list of like cheater things.
It's like not that significant. It's not significant for me
Right.
either because I play Slayer and I can't run. So, but yeah, there's that.
Adding more knowledge to the list of things I don't need to know. Oh no.
Retro Rage will never play plus R.
I played it once. I was playing pod and I got clapped. But
See, you need to roll up with the pizza box next time.
yeah, I just need to get a hitbox, bro. Become hitbox lord.
What the fuck was that Potemkin controller thing?
Oh, yeah,
the-
we were talking about
The
that
one with,
earlier.
like the whole ass
Yeah.
keyboard.
It has macros, so all you have to do is slide your finger, and the order of the buttons is such that it does like the input for like Kara back Mega Fist and like Kara Pop Buster and stuff.
What the
The guy I was watching the video the other day because the guy like shows it, and he's like, "Oh, I don't use it. I thought I'd use these buttons, but I don't use them." So there's like I think like 10 buttons that aren't even useful. They're just there to like
Bruh.
intimidate your enemy. Like one of the
No,
things he
wait, it's more
has-
buttons to press when your enemy's doing a combo and you want to like throw their focus off. Unfair
Right, it's like-
advantage.
It's like the Melty Blood thing where you can like mash in time with the combo to make it deal less damage. That, but you're just like intimidating your opponent by just like
Oh man.
Oh, Big Monkey, what do you think about tournaments and how they're gonna deal with this controller issue? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's up to everybody else. I mean, it's like if the players who are playing it are complaining about it, then why not like appease them, right? But I don't think it's worth it to disqualify people who have things that look like at least look like actual controllers, right?
Oh, wait, so are we
Like
making this
cross
like
up
a
your box.
democracy thing where like if like a 60-40, like if 60% of the players are like, yeah, I want to ban hitbox, right? Then the tournament's like, oh yeah, 60%, too bad. It's voted on like a Google Sheets or something.
I feel like
Well,
it
it's like
has-
up to a point, right? Because if people are just trying to get like one person banned who uses hitbox, it's kind of
Target
you know,
banning.
right? like team conspiracy.
I want to
looking
ban
at us.
Daigo, democracy, not ban Daigo from the tournament, bro.
Exactly, right? Or like JDCR. Like nobody's thinking like that, right? But
I think it kind of has to be standardized because if it like different tournaments have different rules, then it's kind of like, well, I bought this $250 controller, now I can't use it at half the tournaments I could go to. Like it has to be like, okay, if Evo says we're doing this, this is how it goes, and then Hitbox is like, okay, we'll make these changes to our controller because Evo said so. We wanted people to buy our controller so they could go to tournaments. But if it's like, oh, you go to like, oh, CEO, but CEO has different rules and you can't do this, I think it has to be kind of standardized. Otherwise, you're just gonna screw over people. Like at the end of the day.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, true. But that's just life, right?
Right.
That's a terrible response.
Don't make
you don't always get everything you want. You don't always get to use the $500 controller you paid for.
Right. Here's your like Hori Fight Stick Mini. Good luck.
Oh no. Oh no.
Checking bags. So
I'm actually, dude, we might bring this up another time when they actually decide to put rulings on this. Then we'll talk. We'll definitely talk about it again.
Yeah, we could just wait a week until the next like controversy starts up.
The next controversy.
Yeah. Well, people
Yeah,
are
next
talking
Twitter
about
post.
like prize pools and shit, and I swear that discussion just happened like 2 weeks ago. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. I recently been playing keyboard ever since like COVID hit because like my friend got into fighting games, but he hates controllers. He's like a PC master race kind of guy, right? So he's like, I'm only gonna play on keyboard. Keyboard is like superior in every way. Controllers are dog water. I'm like, all right, fine. Let me learn how to play fighting games on keyboard so I can teach you how to play fighting games, right? And you know, my keyboard experience is pretty good, except my keyboard's kind of dog water. So like, it has that thing where you can't press multiple keys on like the same
on the same
hardware
row
line. Or,
Yeah.
So like, I end up having to, and I don't like macros. Like macros are like, I really don't like them, right? So like, I'd rather press both buttons than press like a macro key for EX, right? So I think that's like my major issue. I know like a hitbox, they don't have that kind of problems, right? But as a keyboard player,
Yeah. There, unfortunately, for keyboard users, there are so many things that kind of prevent keyboards for use. Like even if everyone switched over to PCs, they're like on their like 420 like refresh rate monitors. You know, I think keyboards are kind of have issues just because of like plugging multiple keyboards even. That kind of end button rollover.
Yo. Cross-eyed, you should make Big Monkey. Like, I don't even know why Big Monkey hasn't even gotten a hitbox yet. This guy's like a keyboard player Maximus, bruh. He ends up bringing a keyboard to the thing, and then we have to do like the controller. Keyboard. I'm like, bro, please stop.
Whose laptop? So someone's laptop who, whenever I try to plug in my controller, it hates it. It refuses to like. They have to restart Steam and shit. And it's only on that. There's only on that one. Like,
I'm like,
it's like PC setups are kind of scuffed. I'm gonna be like, you're gonna have to have the same computer with the same exact Steam settings, with the same exact in-game settings. You're probably still gonna have to restart the game half the time when someone plugs their controller.
Dude, I'm about to troll somebody and put like some whack Steam controller thing on it that like overrides their controller just to like clown on them. They're like pressing buttons and it's like not doing what they want. Yeah, I'm like, that's right. That's my default Steam controller settings, bruh. Just every time.
The start button is your down input.
Oh no. Yeah, Big Monkey, are you thinking of getting a hitbox or anything like that since you're an avid key user?
If money permits.
Just make your own, bruh. We got Cross-eyed here making one for like what, about $100? Do you think
Probably
if you
like
went really
120.
cheap? If you went really cheap, how much would you be able to make it for?
It depends if you wanted to use it. So the thing about Arduino is you can't connect to PS4s because Sony is like, you have to have a licensed controller or it won't work with your thing. So if you want it to like go to locals, they use PS4s and not PCs. then you'd probably have to go for like the Brooks board, which is like $50 on its own. Otherwise, my Arduino, I was technically not an Arduino, it's like a knockoff Arduino, and you could probably get them cheap on like AliExpress or whatever if you trust that. Probably like $20 on wires and stuff, probably another 15. Buttons probably like 35 to 40, maybe more if you want to get like a fancier buttons.
Buttons cost that much? Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
they're
I
Why
quite
do they cost more than the other stuff?
If you want good buttons, then dude.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you. This might be going a little off topic. I bought a stick off eBay. Dude, the buttons like jammed, bruh. Like you press the buttons and it wouldn't come out, dude. I was like, bro, you totally lied, dude. The guy said it was like a perfectly functioning stick, dude. I was actually molding. I gave him like a 1 star. I was like, bro, 1 star. This guy lied about the thing. And then I put in new buttons in it. And dude, just buttons, they expensive, bro. You gotta get good buttons.
Did he respond to your review?
Nah, the guy was just like, "Aha, I got your money. Okay, bye." And I'm like, okay. And I didn't want to deal with like the eBay's freaking money back clown stuff. So I was like, it wasn't that expensive. So I bought something pretty cheap. You know, you get what you expect, right? You get what you paid for.
If it's like a jammed button, can you fix something like that yourself?
You should
Maybe.
be
I'm
able
not
to.
sure. Maybe I'd like do some. I don't know. Maybe. I still have the buttons. Maybe. Or maybe I recycled them. I'm not sure. But yeah, hitbox. The future is yours, Cross-eyed. You're the man of the future.
Yeah, yeah. Depending on how cheap you wanted to go with the hitbox, like you could get it for $100 if you wanted to do like when I first got mine before I built the actual case, I used a shoebox and it wasn't great. But if you have like a good cardboard box, it honestly wouldn't be that bad. Like I think like yeah, but the thing like I think the snack box is still over $200 and the OG hitbox is like $250.
Oh, we got a
So you could
comment
definitely
here.
get a lot cheaper.
Certain sticks are easier to modify and fix than others. Victrix is actually so free to mod it. Oh, Victrix. That's true. I didn't even think about Victrix.
But yeah, I think someone mentioned that. I think there's things for you could do where you like get like a default controller or like a default stick, and you could like switch the buttons out and stuff like that. But yeah, I think hitboxes is like I'm not sure what the price like. What does an average like stick go for? Let me
For
find
hitbox?
that. Or just for like
That's
a
300, right, or something like that.
a normal like a normal like just like the arcade stick portion of it, like the joystick.
You can get a decent arcade
Like a
stick for
Sanwa
like
JLF. I just mean like the joystick
part
itself. Yeah, the
itself?
part. Yeah, it looks like you could get one maybe for like $25. So the hitbox is even a little cheaper on that end because you're replacing that with like buttons, which is going to be like $12. So I think the way normal controllers are is that you usually have 30mm buttons for your action buttons and so on. But for the hitbox, you usually do 24mm buttons for all your action buttons and your movement. And the only one you have a 30mm for is your jump button. So that also saves you a little bit because they're usually like 50 cents cheaper or something.
Oh, and you know what I love about the hitbox? They're flat. So if you put it in like your backpack or
Yes.
something, like oh my goodness, like it's so much better than putting like a stick in it. Like the stick bumps out and it's like bruh.
Yeah.
I'm like actual bruh moment. Like I'm getting like that vein energy, like the veins popping out in your head. I'm like, oh. They're like, so what if I want to bring it, like, and I want to bring my books and stuff too, right? Am I gonna cut a hole through my books and then like make it align with the stick?
Bruh.
It's like the snack box.
Bro, just put your books in your stick.
Ooh, now that's a. I didn't think about that one actually. That's
Cerebral keyboard player moment.
Wow, actually, putting books in your stick, like that might actually be feasible. I like actually never thought about that. Holy crap! This big monkey out here with a big brain. you just go into class, you pull out your stick, and then people are like, "What the heck's going on?" And then you open up the stick and then you pull out your text. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Oh no. That's
Incredibly based.
Oh. Well, we'll just have to see what comes around. I think I don't got anything more to talk about unless you want to talk memes and stuff. I'm all out. If you guys have anything else, I'm down to shut down the stream right now.
I don't know if I have anything.
Anything else to add?
I hope one day Japanese video game companies will recognize keyboard players' human rights.
True.
That's true.
Most
yeah.
oppressed person is keyboard.
They don't even think they don't even acknowledge us.
True.
That's true. Yeah, when you go to Japan, you go to the arcade, they see your like hitbox or keyboard, and they execute you in front of like the third flight cab.
They let your blood spill onto the buttons of the arcade sticks.
Yeah, that's like
God.
they keep the sticks like greased up.
Yeah, they give you like a sword to commit unalive. They're like, do it yourself, you know.
This sword doesn't have buttons on it. I can't use it.
Oh
They just-
my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Did you guys see the sword controller someone had?
No.
The Buster
wait,
Sword
with the
one?
cloud?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's so cool. Just be like,
Dude, that's easier to carry than like the sticks, like, because then you just put it on, you attach it to your back, right?
Right.
You know, it's not.
Doesn't
not
the hardware like jiggle around?
Now, wouldn't it be inside the sword? I didn't
probably. I
see
think
it.
it's just like probably a separate enclosure inside. So it looked like it was like made out of metal or something. I was like, damn.
Oh dang! If it was made out of metal, that's pretty heavy. You can probably get like some good cardio.
It looked like plastic to me.
Oh, was it? I don't know. I don't remember. I like. Yeah, I don't really like it too much. But it's one of the things where like, damn, I don't want to be there when this guy pops off.
He just slams his controller, he splits the TV in half, bruh. Oh
To be
no.
happy he didn't split you in half, bro.
Right?
Oh no.
Babe really said if you throw me right now, I'm going to throw your remains into the trash can right now or something.
Like that guy is
Like that is intimidating.
right? That
You're
guy-
not winning against
yeah.
that.
You know what would be Omega based? Dude, I'm gonna develop a fighting game, join my own tournaments, and then nerf all the characters I lose to. Oh,
That's
my
not an
goodness.
original idea though. Harada already did it.
Oh, wait, actually, no shot.
No. But it's like a running meme because Harada plays Feng, right? And he played against somebody's Jin at some point on stream. And in the beginning, like season 1, Jin was like top tier. He had amazing buttons. His fucking like standing 4 gave him like a unique crumple stun. Just like overall top tier. And then Feng was like, generally many considered him to be like bottom 5, but I don't think he was that bad. But he was low tier, right? And then fast forward to now, Jin is like all right. He lost his unique crumple animation on his Magic 4, so it does less damage. And Feng is top tier.
Based developer.
There was
Harada's actually so base, dude.
right.
Shut up and don't ask me for shit.
Didn't he? There was a recent picture where he was like in the big chair.
Oh, the throne
Oh, the
thing?
geese chair.
That was
Bro.
I'm like, damn. It sucks that like he like hates rollback or whatever because he's really funny.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
he says last time he said they had rollback, but I think they just considered it like a buzzword because they never added rollback.
I think it's technically rollback, but there's lots of like delay frames that you can't like stop. So it's like bad rollback.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean-
I don't got much more to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're.
All right, what? Some tournament's gonna announce something clown. People are gonna get angry. We're gonna come back and talk about it. All right.
It never
Yeah.
ends.
Endless content.
All right, I'm ending the stream now. I'm ending it. I'm
Yeah.
ending